Hello friends, this is Jay Hendricks with Powerful Thought Online. Today, as a fellow student with you, I wanted to continue with Revelation. Revelation chapter 4, an esoteric analysis. First of all, I want to make a couple announcements. Me and my brother and our band Melonface, our album will be released this Friday. You can find it on Spotify, Apple Music, Pandora, many other places. I'll put links to in the description below, so you can check those out. The album out on Friday. It's called Flip the Floor. It's like indie rock, roots rock. Hopefully you enjoy it. And I will be releasing each of the songs probably every week until the whole album's on this channel, so you can listen to it in a playlist on this channel. The other thing I wanted to talk about is how the world is pretty crazy right now. If you're looking for some clarity on what's going on, what the coronavirus really is, what these organized race riots are, and how they're all kind of distracting away from what's really going on, check out X22 Report. It's a very clear and daily report that details all the way back to, I think, 2013 is when I started listening to it. Details what's going on in the world. So I would check out the X22 report. A lot of strange and crazy things are probably going to start happening in the next few months leading up to the election. So, if you find the X22 report useful and helpful, please let other people know about it and join the awakening, let's say. Okay, anyway. So, Revelation chapter 4, an esoteric analysis. To sum up what we have gone through so far. Thus far, the first 3 chapters of Revelation have been a treatise on the process of revelation, which is the process of aligning the lower animal self to the higher authentic self. We do this through these two. We do this through the chakra system and the expression of balanced living. Revelation is a collaboration with the soul to heal, align, and still the body and the environment around you. It's a process of healing, revelation. So, let's start with verse 1. Verse 1, After this I looked, and behold, a door was opened in heaven. And the first voice which I heard was, as it were, a trumpet talking with me, which said, Come up hither, and I will show thee things which must be hereafter. My analysis. Once the chakras in the body are aligned to the Om at the center of your being, you will pierce through the veil of potentiality. At that point, your authentic higher self will show you the things that must happen in order for you to actualize the authentic higher self through revelation. Verse 2, And immediately I was in the Spirit, and behold, a throne was set in heaven, and one sat on the throne. My analysis. In this state of alignment, you become purely one being. Purely one thing, one being. If this state is forced through psychedelics or extreme practices, it will become a premature misalignment where vibrating egoic sensations and perceptions are carried to this oneness state, and you will match the vibrating sensations with the oneness and believe that you are everything. So to enter this oneness state, you must all sense and sensation from the body, the mind, the emotions, all that must be turned off and silenced, or else you'll confuse the things you bring with you into that state as you. If you can still the body, the emotions, and the mind completely through steady and proper practice, you can see that you are purely one point of awareness, vibrating as Om. Others experience this state as blankness or nothingness because they have not established an awareness of the subtle vibration of Om, but have only stilled their bodies and have not noticed the Om. This Om is the trumpet talked about in the first verse. Okay? Verse 3, and he that sat was to look upon like a jasper and a sardine stone. And there was a rainbow round about the throne in sight like unto an emerald. My analysis. This document is a collective dream, and dreams are symbolic mind interpretations that are fabricated by what the dreamer is aware of. So objects, situations, and people in dreams, etc., are representing something unconscious to the dreamer by using symbols and representations that the dreamer is conscious of. For instance, this is kind of a silly example. If you dream about your grandma riding a unicycle at a circus, let's say. You dream about your grandma riding a unicycle at the circus. Well, on the surface, that can be really bizarre and meaningless. But if you look at it from what does your grandma represent to you? And you can immediately say, well, this. What does a unicycle represent to you? Well, this. What does a circus represent to you? Well, this. And if you piece that all together, you will immediately have an aha moment, and the unconscious thing the dream was trying to communicate will click into consciousness. So that's roughly how dreams work, okay? So the book of Revelation is a collective dream. So we have to look at the symbols in the dream as the collective would, as the collective has agreed those symbols represent throughout time. Okay, so we must, like I said, we must look at the symbols in these scriptures as what the collective sees in these symbols to know what is unconscious to the collective and therefore unconscious to us individually. So John, in deep meditation and in the oneness state, after he silenced his body and emotions and mind, is seeing his lower self through the eyes of his higher self. It appears as a jasper stone and a sardine stone. A jasper stone is a spotted stone, and the Egyptians associated it with Isis, the feminine. A sardine stone is a blood red stone, and it was used in the breastplates of Jewish high priests, priesthood, masculinity. The rainbow is used many times in the scriptures, but I do believe this is referring to our causal body that is beyond our mental body. The causal body appears as a beautiful rainbow bridge that connects us to our authentic higher self, or to our soul, which is represented by the emerald, which symbolizes truth and love by many civilizations. Truth and love as associated with the soul. So I believe in this verse, John is able to communicate with his soul and see the actuality of the masculine and the feminine aspects in his lower self, represented by Isis and the high priesthood. Okay? He's peeking beyond the veil and seeing his being for what it is, the state of his body, the state of all of the various instruments that he uses. And the causal body is higher than the mental. It is that which gathers all experience into it, and it grows kind of like a flower. And at some point it's gained enough potential, enough voltage or from experience that it's able to dissolve into the soul, let's say. Very esoteric stuff. Okay, so now verse 4. And round about the throne were 24 seats. And upon the seats I saw 24 elders sitting, clothed in white raiment, and they had on their heads crowns of gold. My analysis. According to the Bible, the number 24 is the symbol of priesthood. It also symbolizes harmony between earth and sky, or feminine and masculine. John is seeing the hierarchy of being within him, and how he is the ruler of the universe that is his body. He is also seeing that the atoms that make up his body are each purely an individual with a golden crown of their own, or each with a connection to God of their own. That's what the crown represents. Their connection and integration with God. Okay? So he's seeing more of the underlying structure of his being. Verse 5. And out of the throne proceeded lightnings and thunderings and voices. And there were 7 lamps of fire burning before the throne, which are the 7 spirits of God. My analysis: John, as the mediator between his lower and higher self, is approached by his higher self, which is represented by the 7 spirits of God, or the 7 rays of monadic energy and divinity coming out of the throne. The throne is the seat of the soul, or the point in the middle of the head where the soul makes contact with the body. This approach is experienced as lightnings, thunderings, and voices. Okay? Verse 6. And before the throne there was a sea of glass like unto crystal. And in the midst of the throne, and round about the throne, were 4 beasts full of eyes before and behind. The sea of glass before the throne is the representation of John's stilled body, emotions, and mind. That's how he is seeing them symbolized. It's John's still body, emotions, and mind that's represented as the sea of glass. It could also mean, or that John has withdrawn his consciousness completely from his body. Between the mind and the throne of the soul are 4 beasts who can see all around themselves and who surround the throne. These beasts represent John's relationship to his animal lower self and are experienced in his abstract mind, which is higher than his stilled, concrete mind. So you have to look at this as a spectrum. As the concrete mind blends into the abstract mind, and the abstract mind blends into the causal mind, body, and the soul. It just is like, it's like a rainbow. And the abstract mind is the lowest aspect of the soul. So he's in his abstract mind right now, and he is seeing the image representing his animal nature. Okay? Number 7. And the first beast was like a lion, and the second beast like a calf. And the third beast had a face as a man, and the fourth beast was like a flying eagle. My analysis: generally speaking, I would say the lion represents courage, the calf represents humility and underdevelopment, the man represents potential godhood and hope, and the flying eagle represents the all-seeing eye and liberation, which the United States uses as their symbol of liberty and the ability to live in a free country, to speak freely, to think freely, and to achieve enlightenment. That's what the goal of the United States ultimately is. Now, from my view, these four beasts are the stages of realizations that the lower self must go through to become the higher self. So, we start with courage, and then we realize our underdevelopment, and we must have humility. Then we realize our potential godhood, and we have hope in that. And then we achieve liberation and consciousness, the all-seeing eye. You see more and more and more as you progress. Okay? Now, verse 8. And the four beasts had each of them 6 wings about him, and they were full of eyes within. And they rest not day and night, saying, Holy, 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 Lord God Almighty, which was and is to come. The wings represent improvement, messengers of God, and freedom. In the Bible, the number 6 is a symbol for human weakness and sins. The beasts can see all around and within themselves, and are therefore representations of the entities of atoms that make up our lower animal nature, our animal lower self. And just as an atom can look within and without itself, so can an entity of atoms if they are unified enough. John is seeing the current condition of his animal self, which is a mostly unified community of individual atoms or lives. And his animal self has reached the point where it is calling out to God and to the higher self for redemption. That's how I would say it. So the difference between an entity and an atom, an entity and a being, is that a being is one. Unique, purely one thing, one being. An entity is a network of beings that when the beings have unified enough, that entity can take on, it's a body, so it's a different aspect than a being. So our bodies are entities, and you are one being, and perfecting the relationship between you and the entity that you reside in is the goal. The relationship between the king and his kingdom. Okay? Now verse 9. And when those beasts give glory and honor and thanks to him that sat on the throne, who liveth forever and ever, the 24 elders fall down before him that sat on the throne, and worship him that liveth forever and ever, and cast their crowns before the throne, saying, Thou art worthy, O Lord, to receive glory and honor and power, for thou hast created all things, and for thy pleasure they are and were created. My analysis of 9 through 11. When the lower animal self relinquishes control to the authentic higher self, and all the authority and awareness is placed in the higher self, symbolized by the elders falling down, then the higher self is actualized and the resurrection is attained. Godhood is realized, and the atoms of the body become liberated to choose to form the perfect body of their Creator, the authentic higher self. A resurrected individual has perfected the relationship between his or her oneness and the unified entity that is his or her body. So, this, to me, is a chapter that is breaking down how revelation is the process to become resurrected. Not only that, but revelation is the process to update the state, to update countries and their procedures, to update people in their lives. It's an updating mechanism. Revelation. Now, a side note, later I plan to do a video explaining my thoughts on the essential difference between resurrected male and female bodies, and why a resurrected body is not sexless, or why gender is an eternal characteristic. Okay? So that's all for today. Thank you for listening. I'm Jay Hendricks. This is Powerful Thought Online. Have a good day.